Hello lovely peoples, we're back in the garden, yay! Little bit, not precious, what's a pressured today. Sorry, how are you all? I hope you're well. Yes, so we're just here at the back of the garden where my wooden wall is, partly for a bit of shelter because it's suddenly getting really windy. It's warm though, it's a nice temperature, getting the cardi off. Really overcast, quite windy at times, it's gusting, so we might actually have to retreat to the shed at points. The reason is we've got a big weather front coming in. We're getting ready for, I'm just seeing clumps of grass, hold on, I can't leave that alone. And that weed. Yeah, we're getting ready for an absolute right royal dumping. I didn't mean right royal coronation, right royal dumping of rain for a couple of weeks. So I was intimating about this in the kitchen the other day, that I'm having to revise my plans for the garden a bit. Right, let's get on. Hang on, it's tough. Disappearing from view. I'm getting out last year's Verbena. Might need to give my secateurs a bit of oil. Yeah, so slight change of plans. The last couple of days thinking, okay, what can I only do if I'm outside? What could I do, in theory, in the shed? There's not a huge amount to do in the shed. Actually, it needs a really good clean and clear up because I've had a mouse invasion, so I want to clear up after them because hygiene. Here's our Gary. Hang on a tick. Well, that was a happy little interlude. A bit longer than I would have intended, but it's always nice to have a chat and a catch up. And of course I was seated. Actually, I need to move back a bit to see you. Anyway, so what I was saying is, we've got masses and masses of rain coming. It looks like a couple of weeks. So what do I need to do outside? So, for example, I've given all the paths their first trim. I was going to trim all the edges, and my blades are completely blunt. Never mind. So that can be a rainy day job in the shed with my sharpening stone. I brought the sharpening stone down with me so as not to forget. Seed sowing can happen in the shed. However, there is a little bit of pressure on because I want to do some direct sowing. I'm hardly doing any direct sowing this year at all because of that whole digging thing. So it sounds like a biplane. I can't. Oh no, it's a jellycopter. And here's Rusty. It's all good. Hello, gorgeous boy. Hey, sweet pumpkin. I hadn't told you this, had I? Because the last video you saw, and I had the little bag of treats as an Easter thing from Pat. Yesterday when I was down here, Rusty and Rosie both had some special treats. Anyway, so try and keep it together. The reason I'm sitting at the moment and doing this is partly just to test out the weather a bit with the camera. It's picking up again. But also because where I'm going to sow the carrots and the Coco de Paimpol, that's one of the few things I'm going to do direct sowings of. What I did yesterday was I cleared those beds completely of all the old plants that were left in there. The carrots going where I had potatoes, and I'd obviously missed a few because they'd sprouted. Fine. It's given me a chance to see where they're sprouting, get them out. So they've been thoroughly weeded, old plant material out, and I gave them a little bit of a bash with the rake. So this morning, what I've done, or it's noonish, when I've arrived now, I've put a few cans of water on each bed to really soak, because everything's dried out, believe it or not, considering on the amount of rain we had in March. But anyway, give them a good soaking. And now, actually, as Gary's just left, he's very kindly kicked one of the beds for me, said no, it's soaked in now. So now it's had a good soaking, I can go along with the rake and just break it down into a sort of, it's not going to be a fine tilth, but into at least something of a tilth that I can work with to get seeds in. I'm just remembering off the top of my head. I'm sort of gabbling through all this now in case the weather gets so bad that I have to abandon things in the garden. But the carrot bed, no manure, no fertiliser, nothing on there at all. Carrots, parsnips, I never condition the soil before planting or sowing. The bed for the Coco de Paimpol, I scattered some chicken poo on there, chicken poo pellets. Obviously where I've done the watering can, it'll soften them a bit, but we've now got 2 weeks of rain that'll really soften it, take it into the soil, so hopefully as the seeds germinate and start coming up, there's all that nice manure in there for them. Right, yes, finishing off with the Verbena. It's a beautiful, beautiful plant, and it's ironic that Gary should approach just when I was starting, because that big section I had that I was just showing that's gotten to about 6 foot last year, that came from 3 straggly little self-seeders from Gary's garden. Not last year, the year before. The first year I had them, didn't do much. By last year, which was their second year, or 18 months, massive. I love them as a plant. Tall, slender, but not a lot of foliage or stemage, so you can see through the plant, so they don't sort of block your views of anything. So for instance, I've got a little clump in the herb bed, but it doesn't stop me seeing all the other herbs that are low growing, because it is quite, like I said, the stems are so skinny and open. So it's lovely for adding height without crowding everything else out. And then at the end of the year, you can see the flowers. It's a beautiful purple flower. So again, I think it's a lovely one for a herb bed, because so many of our herbs are in those sort of blues and purples and pinks, aren't they? So it's a nice one to sort of coordinate with your other herbs. Ideally, it should be in dry ground. The RHS garden, Hyde Hall in Essex, where I went last year with my Sissio, they have a huge dry garden there. It's beautiful, and it's run through all the way through with Verbena Bonariensis. So yeah, it ought to be in a dry garden. I'm not that dry here, but again, in the herb bed, this is a bed that's never had any manure, fertiliser. It's had no conditioning of any sort. I don't add any fertiliser, my urine fertiliser through the year. It gets nothing, and I don't water it. It's just left entirely on its own, and the Verbena seems perfectly happy there. So yeah, it's a beautiful plant. And then at the end of the season, I'm really getting, it feels it's like getting giddy. It feels like it's getting colder as well. Those flowers, the seed heads, the goldfinches love these seed heads. But, another reason for, not being in a hurry to clear your garden at the end of autumn, beginning of winter, is, we're providing all sorts of food for all sorts of wildlife by leaving our plants in. We're providing habitat. It's really wildlife friendly to leave your garden looking a bit dead and tatty over the winter. Yeah, I'm never in a hurry to clear up after the previous season. But I am now, because the new growth is all coming through. I think I might have to put that cardigan top back on in a minute. I've only got a tiny, tiny little bit of this left to chop. You know what? Because I'm getting a bit chilly, and because this chopping down of these plants isn't a priority, it's not by any means a priority, because it's not food production. Food production is always the priority. I'm going to leave it for now. One of the reasons for doing it just now, I can't remember if I said this before Gary came over, but one of the reasons for doing it was because my walk down here and then backwards and forwards from the water tank to the beds with watering cans kippered my knees up a bit. So I thought, that's fine, I'll do a sit down job. I've been sick for long enough, it's getting chilly, and I think going and bashing those beds into a tilth might warm me up a bit. And I've just seen Rusty's wandering around. I think he wants a cuddle, so I'll go and do that for a minute. that'll do. That, oh la la. That one that I've just bashed, it doesn't have to be fine. I'm just sowing beans in it, and they'll be sown about sort of about 4 centimetres down. So I just want to make sure that it's not utterly compact, because they'll just sit there in that compaction and not do anything. So it's loosened up. Carrot bed is ready for sowing. All I need to do is put my row markers out and drill my holes. But I think, because I've just done a bit, I think I'm going to go and sit a bit. Just a couple of minutes, literally just a couple of minutes, and then we'll get on with some sowing. Oh, it feels good. And that warmed me up. Yay. Oh. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not a quick job. But it's a start, and that's all that matters, isn't it? Get out there and make a start. Just one job. Get one job done today. I think you can see that it is not the finest of fine tilths. I mean, really, in my garden, I never get a really fine tilth. I'm going to try and fit 4 rows in here. This is carrots, but I haven't got any. I've only got 3 string things. One of the things, I will mark the rows, because, once they're sown, I won't be able to see them. And one of the things I did last autumn, I had a really good tidy up of things all around the garden last year, more so than ever before, partly in mind of, being able to pack up and leave, deciding what to leave here and what to take. So I gathered all my tiniest, sometimes really tiny bits of bamboo sticks. I've got 3 pots, like the Goldilocks and the 3 bears. This is the baby bears, but they will work perfectly well as row markers here in the ends of all the rows, so that until the carrots come up, I can at least sort of, have some sort of idea of where they're supposed to be coming up. And it just helps, I know some people aren't into sort of straight lines and neatness. That's fine, you do you. But I find that obviously sewing things in a straight line at this stage means that, even though I can't make a straight drill, it just means that as the next couple of weeks go on, where the weeds come up, because they inevitably will come up again, if they're outside of these lines, I can say to myself, oh, that's a weed. In truth, I know the difference between my weeds and my carrots. I know the kind of weeds I get here, and I know what carrot seed leaves look like. But I think it's a particularly good idea if you're a brand new gardener, especially if you're on a new piece of garden. You don't know what weeds are going to come up, you don't know what weeds you get in that bit of land, that going in a straight line should help you, at least in terms of knowing, no, that's a row of seedlings, leave it alone. That's that side of the row, that's a weed, have it out. So I shall do that, repeat on the other side. Oh, my seeds are over there. I'm going to sow very thinly. The thing with carrots, hang on, let me go and get some seeds so we can get sowing together. Good, I'm armed with seed now. The other thing I should say as well about these drills and a carrot bed is, ideally, you really want it to be as free of stones as possible. Stones or anything else chunky in the soil, because as the carrot, the vegetable that we're going to eat, is essentially just one single taproot of the plant. And to begin with, it's a fairly delicate little thing, like a little piece of string going down, and anything, basically sort of any resistance it comes across in the form of stones, for example, that's what can end up making our carrots fork. They sort of stop in their tracks and then sort of think about going sideways. So yes, ideally a stone-free bed. Hold on, let me get these last in. So as I said, I'm sowing fairly thinly because I don't want to do too much thinning out later on. Now, if you've never grown carrots before, one of the things you'll hear from pretty much every gardener on the planet about carrots, you'll hear them talking about carrot root fly. And it's a fly that I think it's sort of basically that lays its eggs in the top of the carrot. The larvae hatch and chomp their way through your carrots. It has been thought for years and years and years that carrot fly can only fly at a height of 60 centimetres. Some people say 1 metre. So the carrot fly, it's attracted by the smell of the carrots. So if I've sown really, really thickly and then I'm having to take a load of them out, just the act of me bruising those little seedlings to get them out is going to attract the flies in. I don't want to do that. Also, throughout the season, they'll be grown under covers. I've got my EnviroMesh covers ready and waiting to stop the flies from getting in. Some folk say that if you sow them in raised beds and get them above the height at which the carrot fly, then you'd be safe. But I think even if I was growing mine in a raised bed, I think I'd still get my EnviroMesh nets on as a bit of a belts and braces. And now, quite simply, I'm going to sort of pinch that soil over. I didn't talk about spacing, did I? In terms of the depth of the drill, it's supposed to be about a couple of centimetres, but you know, it might be a little bit more, a little bit less in places. I don't get too fussed. In terms of distance apart, about 20 to 25 centimetres between my rows. The other thing I just want to say as a sort of a caveat is that for some reason, for the last 3 years, I have failed miserably with my carrots. After having absolutely stonking carrots for years and years and years, suddenly, no, I seem to not be able to grow them. No idea why, because I haven't changed my sort of technique or the variety or anything like that. No rhyme or reason. So, I do have a little bit of a backup plan for this bed, should these carrots not do anything. Right, get my other 2 rows sown, a few more at the other end underneath the rose bush, and then I can move on to the Coco de Paimpol. As I'm making this second drill, you can see some of it's tumbling into my first drill, but not to worry, because I just sowed the first drill before starting on the second one. So yeah, it's filled it in a bit, but that's fine because it's already seeded. Coco de Paimpol on a sunny day. Whew. When I did my plan in the winter, I hadn't put Coco de Paimpol on because I just didn't fancy prepping the bed. But then I thought, oh, I've got to have them, haven't I, surely? Did I do one there? Yeah. Let's get a plump seed. Good. Oh, I'm getting slower as the afternoon progresses, but I'm getting things done. Hurrah! Right. Yeah, get these two covered. Start on the next two. Buried my string. Chuck it over there for a second. I do like to use these row markers. Yeah, partly because I'm neat, of course, but also, like I was saying with the carrots, the whole weeding thing. But actually, more than that, it just helps me. I get a visual on the spacing, so that I don't end up with two rows, you know, really close together, and then a third row, for example, way out on its own. Yeah, it definitely helps me with my spacing. There's something else I was going to say and I've completely forgotten it. If it comes back to me, I'll come back to you. Oh dear, it's one of those days, but it does feel good to get seed into the... Oh, that's what I was going to say. Hang on, let me roll this one up as I'm talking. I've got some nets ready. Oh my goodness, just noticed building work, aeroplane, can you hear me? Wind, let me just come right up close to you. I've got some nets ready to cover these beds, my net tunnels. I've only got one clear one, the other one's a shade one. Now, they don't need netting for any reason, you know, not sort of like, there's no flies that are going to get in, they shouldn't be pecked by pigeons. I'm netting them for two reasons. One, because any freshly disturbed ground like this is, firstly, the foxes love it. I think there's the theory that freshly disturbed ground could indicate a buried kill. There's nothing buried here, foxes, but yeah, this freshly disturbed ground is heaven for them, and they like to kind of get in there and dig. Obviously the cats love fresh ground like this to scratch up and use as a litter tray. So I'm covering it to keep animals off. But also because, like I said, we are due so much rain for the next 2 weeks. And a couple of the days it looks like it's going to be really, really heavy rain. And at the moment this soil is bare. There's absolutely nothing to break the fall of the rain. And really heavy rain is just going to compact it, straight away. So the idea with putting the nets on is it will just, don't need that weed in there, chuck it on the dry ground for a minute. Yeah, it'll just break the force of the rain somewhat. I didn't put my row markers in, my little mini sticks. Where's my mini sticks? Gotta have my rows marked. It'll just break the worst of the hammering of the rain. So hopefully not just knacker me soil too much. With clay soil like this, almost everything I do in the garden, my first thought is about the soil, about how to protect it, how to nurture it, how to improve it. And by improvement, I'm not talking about chucking a load of chemical fertilisers on. I'm talking about organic matter added to it. I'm sure most of you know. Right, well, I'll get this all covered, get the next 2 rows done, and then I think it'll be time for a bit of my next turn. Sit down, do a bit. sit a bit, do a bit more, sit a bit more. It's way gone lunchtime. I have brought lunch with me today, but I don't know if some of you will get this as well, that you sort of get on a roll with the work, don't you, and then you just don't want to stop. But I think I will after this bed. I'm sort of back where I started. Just getting rid of the verbena in the herb bed. I'm in deep shade here because of that illegal tree next to me, but if I move here, you see it's really quite bright. It's been a bit of a weird day for what... Oh, is it going to cloud over now? I said that. Yeah, it's still quite blustery. But there have been moments, like just now before I turned the camera on, it's sod's law, isn't it? The air suddenly went so still, I could hear Gary and Bonnie chatting at the other end of the plot. I mean, crystal clear, as if they were on the plot next to me. It's lovely just hearing friendly chatter as, you know, in the last week or so, it seems like a lot of people, like me, are getting back to their gardens and getting stuck in and loving it. And I think there's also, again, a sense of urgency amongst everyone that just when we're ready to get stuck in again, we're going to be rained off. So yeah, let's get down here and make the most of it. It's lovely. Everyone just seems so happy and excited, and I mean, it's amazing, isn't it, how utterly transforming it can be to one's mood, one's mental health, to simply be out in the garden. Even on a day where it's going cloudy from time to time and it's blustery, it doesn't matter. I see it with all my friends and all my neighbours. I see it there's a transformation, it's joy, it's pure joy. Yay! Have I banged on about joy enough in the last couple of days? Well, let's put it this way. I'd rather bang on about joy too much than bang on about miserable stuff. Anyway, I'm getting to the stage where I'm sort of losing a bit of productivity, going slower and slower and slower, but I've got 2 beds sown. Woohoo! Which means that's 2 beds prepped and sown, because you can't sow until you've prepped. Oh, excuse me. Brilliant. Over the last couple of days I've been doing odd bits of tidying up too. Good, because quite often the tidy up jobs are sit down jobs. Great. I've done my first trim of the year. I'm going, after the camera's off, I'm going to do a bit more, especially around the compost bin area, because that's really trippy still. And my shed, outside the shed, the grass is like over a foot long. Trip, trip, trip. But other than that, today I think I might call it a day. Not going to overdo it. Frankly, 5 minutes is overdoing it. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I think, but before I get into the strimmer, I'm just going to sit. I'm just going to sit and enjoy the happy voices that are coming to me on the breeze. I'm going to look at the 2 beds I've done and be happy. And like I was saying the other day about, there's always something that I can take home in my mind, and it's like a bit of sort of joy battery, filling my joy battery, so that if I can't get to the garden tomorrow because of the weather, or if my day is going a bit rubbish for whatever reason, I can tap into that joy battery and think, I can see that image in my mind's eye of the 2 beds that have got seeds in them today. They haven't just got seeds in them, they've got a ton of hope in them. Alright lovelies, I will see you all again really soon. I think we might have, well, put it this way, the next time we're in the garden, it will almost certainly be in the shed doing some seedy things, because yeah, I don't think there's going to be much chance to be out here for the next couple of weeks. But like I said, we can just get on with things in the shed. Okay lovelies, until the next one, please look after yourselves. Look after each other, look after your neighbours, Look after that person you always see struggling in the street with their shopping. Go give them a hand. And if you can, if your weather allows, go and get to your garden and listen to some of the happy chatter. Even the birds do happy chatter. For now though, cheerio.